start with our next topics, which are analysis of resources, capabilities, and competencies. But before we go into the new topics, I would like to have a quick analysis, like a quick review of the topics that we have covered already in the last class. So in the last class, we have had a very comprehensive discussion of different types of strategies. For example, we have discussed the deliberate strategy approach. We have discussed the emergent strategy approach, and we have discussed the incremental strategy approach, like how the different types of strategies work and how organizations choose. Keep in mind that there is a suitability for every type of strategy. Okay, this is very important that you need to know that every strategy is not suitable for all types of circumstances. So you have to find out which strategy is more suitable. And then after this, we explore the external environmental analysis, like how to analyze the external environment with the help of the various models. So there are two models that we study at SBL level. First one is the PESTEL analysis. PESTEL analysis is a very comprehensive framework that helps the organization to analyze their macro environment with the help of the 6 factors. So PESTEL stand for like political, economic, social, technological, ecological, and the legal environment. So under this model, we explore that how the changes in these 6 elements would affect strategy of the organization. Very interesting point that you need to know is that not only the new strategies which organizations are developing, for example, if an organization is planning to enter into a new industry or a new market, or if an organization is planning to have a new project, like businesses, they always keep investing, they always keep moving forward, they always think growth. So growth is at the heart of any strategy. Why organizations devise strategies? Because they want to grow. And I gave you multiple examples in the last class that whether you talk about Coca-Cola, Nestle, Unilever, Starbucks, McDonald's, Nike, Adidas, Puma, you talk about Zara, H&M, these are one of the biggest companies in the world. But even you would be amazed that a small company, for example, a solar panel manufacturer, okay, or even a small dental shop or a dental clinic, you would be amazed. A small dentist clinic would also explore that how they can grow, what strategies they need to develop. This is just a small example. Even a doctor clinic, like yoga, for example, business instructor, let's say, or a college, university, or a hospital. Any organization which is in business, they want to grow. So here, with the help of this model, business organization can have an idea of how the different changes in the macro environment would affect their strategy, or if they are planning to initiate a new project, that how these changes might affect. So that's very interesting. After this, we explored the second model was there is also a topic of strategic drift. Strategic drift happens, as I explained in the last class, that where an organization is not changing its strategy over a long period of time because external changes are bigger, but the organization is making small incremental changes to its existing position, its existing portfolio, its existing business model, and those small changes might not be sufficient to adjust the bigger changes which are happening in the overall landscape. For example, these days, very big example is how the US and China trade conflict is impacting the businesses all around the world. Yes, supply chains disruptions are going on, or you talk about the China and the European Union, for example, how the European Union is putting the tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles, Chinese-made steel, Chinese-made solar, and as a response, that the China is putting tariffs and restrictions for the like European different types of businesses, whether they are bigger businesses, whether they are smaller businesses. So this is a very interesting era in which right now we are living, that how businesses are responding to the bigger changes which are happening in the external environment. And very interestingly, that now the dynamics in external environment are much, much bigger than as we compare with the 10 years back or 20 years back, where global trade was at the uh, like flourishing. If we think back 10 years, the global trade was at the peak, but now there are a lot of challenges are happening. So that's why businesses need to adapt. What I am saying, that businesses need to adapt. Okay, so considering the bigger shifts in external environment, okay, businesses, whether small or large businesses, they need to adapt. They need to adjust their business models. They need to adjust their strategies. Okay. And very interestingly, one more area where I love to develop knowledge and I love to share my knowledge as well, that how they respond. The big question is, yes, we know that businesses need to adapt, but the big question is how? How to adapt? So how to adapt mean, uh, the question is that they need to find new solutions. Why we say they need to find new solutions? There is a reason. Because the old solutions to they were developed for older problems, and today organizations are facing new challenges, and these new challenges require new equations, new alliances, new solutions. That's why this is a very interesting area of business research now. Okay, the next model that we discussed was Porter Diamond model. Porter Diamond model is a model that is used to analyze success of a business, success of an organization, success of an industry in a particular market. So with the help of this model, we can understand that what are the factors that might have contributed towards the success of an organization. So under this diamond model, we explore four factors. So with the help of the four factors, we can have some idea that which factor is mostly contributing. So which factors contribute to the success? Okay, so there are four factors. Number one, factor conditions, whether factor conditions are favorable or not. Okay, favorable or not. And what are the factor conditions? There are two types of factor conditions. There are basic factor conditions, and then there are advanced factor conditions. Okay, then number two are demand condition. We need to ask question whether the demand condition is favorable or not. A lot of industries in a lot of countries around the world, if you look, if there are champions, very interesting word I'm using, champions, because yesterday I was reading an article about the European Union, about the Europe. We are looking for champions. So the article heading was that EU need champions. What that mean? If you look at today, world biggest companies, and mostly these are technology companies, with which countries they belong to. whether you talk about cloud providers, whether you talk about largest technology platforms, whether you talk about now AI. So today we are in AI era. So if you look at which companies are at the forefront of AI, you would have few names like NVIDIA, or you might have the TSMC, or you would have the other like Microsoft, for example, or Google, or Meta, or now the Chinese companies are also catching this race. You might have heard about the latest, just I think yesterday or 2 days back, a Chinese open source AI company has made entry. Do you know about that? Have you heard about that news? A new Chinese company has made entry into the AI, and it has made the waves. You might have heard about that. Hello. Have you heard about the latest entry from a Chinese company? What is the name of that? DeepSeek? Hello. What is the name of the company? DeepSeek. Anyone has heard? Okay. So the point is that things have changed. Things have changed. In the past, the success factors were different. And today, success factors are different. Or even I would say that the competitiveness, the competition landscape has dramatically changed today as comparison to the past. Okay, so number three factor is related and support industries. So here we try to find out whether there are related and support industries available for the success of any industry. Yes, for example, you talk about plane manufacturing. So which two companies are the biggest in plane manufacturing or transport, like uh, truck manufacturing, or you talk about like big ship manufacturing or plane manufacturing or rail manufacturing. So if you look at, there are hubs in the world, hubs. These are called clusters. So those clusters would have all the related and support industries that would support to any particular industry. So if you look at the world, the two biggest companies in the world that makes aeroplanes, these are Boeing and Airbus. Boeing is American company and Airbus is the European company. Okay. And you would be amazed that their suppliers are located in all those nearby places. Same case goes for any industry success, that they need to have their related and support industries in their vicinity, in their neighborhoods. And the number four factor for the success of any company is its leadership, is its strategy, and the level of the competition. Rivalry mean competition. More rivalry, the bigger approach, the more long-term thinking, and better products and services. But on the other side, if there is a low level of rivalry, you can think of monopoly situation or oligopoly situation. So in that type of situations, there would be less, uh, might be motivation for the business to innovate. So this is a very interesting. And then after this, we explored how to analyze the competition in any industry or a market. So here we have the Porter Five Forces model. Porter Five Forces model helps us to analyze how to analyze competition, whether the competition is level is low or competition level is high. Okay, so there are five forces according to this that can contribute, uh, that can determine the level of competition. Number one is threat of new entrants. Number two is called threat of buyers. Number three is called power of suppliers, threat of substitutes, and competitive rivalry. So these are the five forces that, by studying these forces, one can easily understand the level of the competition. Okay, all right. I hope you have understood. Is there any question? Is there any question from your last class? I guess no question. So we move on. And today we are starting with analyzing and mapping competitors, customers, and markets. So first of all, let's talk about strategic space. What is strategic space? Strategic space you can think of like this is the area of any industry or market where there is a weak player operating or there is a no player operating. Basically, the purpose of strategic space is to identifying strategic spaces to find out any space in the industry where there is a weak player operating or there is a no player operating. Basically, strategic space in terms of a gap. This is a gap in the market. Okay, and how to identify this one? How to identify? There are two ways. Number one is called strategic grouping, and the number two is called market segmentation. Okay, so under strategic grouping, we would group and analyze the competitors into different categories. Strategic grouping is one way to identify the strategic space. So under this, we can group the different competitors or the players which are operating in the market into different categories, and then find out if any gap exists there, because different competitors would be offering different types of products. Okay, so we can find out, is there any gap that can be filled? For example, these days we are talking a lot about sustainability. We're talking about a lot on social ESG related products. So new categories can be made, new categories considering ESG factors. So we can find out, like, is there any company that is offering better packaging, sustainable packaging, recycling, refilling? You know, we are living in an era of like the uh, in more and more there's a focus on the sustainability, more and more focus on ecosystem, more and more focus on the reuse, recycle, refill. So these type of products now companies are developing. So by keeping these type of thoughts, we can uh, find out, is there any space? And yes, one more idea about circular or circularity of products. Circularity of products, this is a new concept. So instead of making a product that just one time use and then it goes into landfill, so we can design products in modular forms. That's why increasingly this concept is now rising. And even laws are being developed in many countries around the world, okay, to protect the materials going into landfills. Okay, so keep the circularity in design of the product. Yes, it is correct. You are right, Junaid, that go green is now, it's not no more option. It is uh, the need of the time. So every industry, you would be amazed whether that is construction related material manufacturers, for example. You know, in a construction, there are hundreds of different products are used. You can think of, for example, shower, or you can think of bathroom, like different accessories manufacturers, for example. They are developing more sustainable, like, for example, toilet sets. We can talk about a company that make toilet sets. Okay, now they are making more and more environment friendly toilets. They are using new designs that make less use of the water, and then how to treat the different types of the water, less use of water. So very interestingly, there are new developments are emerging, low energy, low water. So these are the new developments. And in every industry, these gaps are emerging. I hope you understand this. So you can find out which company, which business, because in some parts of the world, these concepts are on rise. For example, if you are in Europe, different countries of Europe, you are in Australia, Canada, US, developed, even China, for example. China is leading on the sustainability landscape is now. You may know that China is the world's largest now producer of solar. They are very fast. They are transforming their energy grids into more renewable energy. So there are a lot of developments are happening. So this is the one way to find out gap. Number two is called market segmentation. Market segmentation, where we segment customers, not the suppliers. Because strategic grouping, we divide suppliers into different categories. But under market segmentation, we categorize customers into different categories. So there are a lot of, by the way, we are in new era in social media. In 2025, we have new ways to categorize or to group the customers, because a lot of parameters have changed. Okay, various parameters have changed. Okay, so few way to categorize customers is we can categorize on the geographic basis, like the regional basis. For example, in Mauritius, you can categorize customers into east, west, north, south, and center, and find out if there is any player, like how the different regions are being served by different businesses. Okay, so you can find out the space. Demographic is another factor, like you can divide your customers on the basis of the different, like income, age, family, their gender, education basis. Psychographic, behavioral, persona, predictive, these are the new developments now where we can divide the customers into different categories and find out how are they being served by current suppliers, and we can find out any strategic space. I hope you understand all this, and we are moving on. If there's any question, you are welcome. Next topic is now that how to look into the future. Yes, as the situation is changing very fast, as the change is very fast, as the like the environmental factors are changing very fast. So risks are increasing for the organizations. Okay. Now the big question is that how to get ready for the future. How to get ready for the future. So that's why we need to look at scenarios. What are scenarios? When the business environment is highly uncertain, just like as it is today, just like as we are in 2025. So in 2025, the business economic landscape is very uncertain. It may be impossible to develop a single view of how environmental influences might impact on an organization strategy. That is correct. There is no more single view, because there are so many factors which are shifting. Whether you talk about technology, you talk about environmental, for example, the weather patterns have changed. So just by considering this factor, climate change, just this factor, you would be amazed that like this is the January in Pakistan, okay, in Punjab. I'm right now in Lahore. And here the temperature are abnormal. This temperature right now we are seeing is more hot, and this normally happens in March. That right now we are observing in the mid or the third week of or the fourth week. Yeah, it is continuing for the last 1 week, and this is happening the January. It was supposed to be peak winter season. Winter mean you could expect temperature around like 5, 10, less than 15. But now we are seeing right now the temperature is, if I tell you, the temperature right now is 19. This is something, and it is already evening now. Okay. The point is climate change, and would you would be amazed that this climate change has affected farmers in the last whole year because of less rains, less water, and crops depends upon the rain, and it has, because the rising temperature has affected many crops, including citrus. These days, the citrus season is there. It is being affected. The last summer, it was mango season that was affected. Means fruits, vegetables, okay? And you talk about grains like wheat, the corn, everything is being affected. And this is just, I am sharing with you and the same is happening in India as well, like Punjab and other sides of the India. So imagine it's now global effect. Global effect would be there. So all businesses which are in the agri supply chains, whether they are agri supply chains or even you are in any other business, energy demand is rising, water demand is rising. So the point is a lot of things are affecting right now, and globalization and the like supply chain disruption and then the trade conflicts and all that is affecting. So the point is that we cannot make a single view of how environmental influences might impact on the business strategy. Thus, it might be useful for managers to envisage a number of alternative futures. So better, any business should have alternative futures. These alternative futures are described in scenarios. Okay, so what are scenarios? Scenarios are detailed and plausible views of how the business environment might develop in the future, how the business environment might develop in the future based on different assumptions about key environmental influences. Yes, we make assumptions about how the different environmental factors or how the different environmental forces would change, okay, and the drivers for change within the industry or the market and how it would affect the industry and the markets. So here is the point. Although there are many different ways to develop scenarios, but here is a simple scenario development process. Step number one is that you need to identify what are the key drivers, okay? What are the key drivers and how they can impact our organization, our strategy, our supply chains, our raw materials, our markets, our customers. So this is, you need to have a detailed analysis. Okay, so first of all, identify key drivers, but keep in mind that you have to choose few most important drivers, because there can be a list of 10 drivers and it would be difficult to develop scenarios considering all those. So you need to identify the most significant one. So first of all, identify key drivers and their impact. This can be done through situation analysis. Step number two is about, you need to find out their likely trajectories, like how they can go trajectories. You need to project, means whether they are going east, west, in which direction, mean direction of change of those uh, key forces or these key factors, like in which direction they would go. So this is step number 2. Step number 3 is now you need to start now calculating and combining different factors. For example, you think that what if there's a climate change plus there's a climate related law, climate related laws. For example, like you can talk about carbon emissions law, you can talk about energy or chemical or water related. So, for example, if there are new regulations are emerging, plus the climate change phenomena is affecting, plus are also customers want responsible business practices. Okay, so if all this is shaping, then you need to combine all these factors. So this is the step number 3. And step number 4, now you need to devise your strategy. Mean, what if situation 1 or situation 2 or situation 3 happens? What will be your response? So you need to work on your response. How would you respond to if this happens, if that happens, if that happens? So you need to develop your responses. I hope you have understood the 4 steps which are involved in the future scenarios. So step number 1, you need to identify the key drivers of the change, and those drivers must be significant. Step number 2, you need to find out in which direction these would go. Okay. Number 3, you need to combine the different factors together and evaluate their impact. And number 4, you need to design strategies, or in other words, you need to develop your response options. Okay, so these are the 4 steps involved in scenario development. Okay, that's it. Is there any question? Is there any question? Okay, so when developing scenarios, these are the factors to consider. Okay. Number 1, keep the number of influencing factors limited to a few significant ones. As I told you, you need to keep your analysis simple. Otherwise, your analysis would become too complex. Number 2, it is also preferable to focus on factors which are largely out of control. That is important point, that you need to consider those factors. You need to develop scenarios for those factors which are largely out of the control of the organization. Because if something is in control, then you can have a control on that. But if something is beyond control, for example, external factors, so you need to develop scenarios about that. Number 3, it is recommended that managers should develop contingency plans, like strategies for each unfolding scenario. So contingency plans should be there, like response option should be there. For example, if there is like cyber security threat or cyber security issue, so how to respond to that? You need to get ready for that. Okay. And last one is consumer data might help establish a statistical relationship between spending in the market sector and changing economic indicators. Mean, this is your sources of information. Sources of information to use in scenario development. Okay. So that's all about this topic. I hope you have understood, and we are moving on to our next topic. Our new topic is internal analysis. Previously, we have been learning about external analysis. Okay, all the models, all the topics that we have covered, whether it is Pastel, Five Forces, Diamond model, or the static space, customer segmentation, or scenario analysis, all these topics are part of external analysis. And now we are here at internal analysis. So as a part of internal analysis, we have, first of all, value chain analysis. What is value chain analysis? Value chain analysis is a useful framework that can help an organization to identify how the different activities are working, how the different activities are working towards its strategic support, and how the different activities are interacting with each other and leading to competitive advantage. Okay, few words that I have used here in the context of the value chain analysis, that how various activities in the organization, activities and resources. Yes, you also need to consider resources as well. That activities and resources in the organization are interacting with each other. You know, in the organization, different departments, teams, people, processes, they interact with each other, interacting, supporting the strategic success of the organization, how they are helping the organization to achieve mission and strategic objectives of the organization. So very interesting. You need to ask a question that how the different activities in the organization, they are interacting with each other to achieve competitive advantage. Okay, so let's talk about, first of all, what is value? Okay, some students might be thinking that what is the definition of value? Value refers to the benefit that a customer obtains from a product or service. Customer obtain a benefit. What is the definition of that benefit? For example, you purchase like a product, and like you have purchased a new AC, for example, and now the company has offered you free installation. Okay, so that you can think of a value. Similarly, for example, if you have bought a new furniture and something has damaged of the furniture, some component has broken or damaged. So the furniture manufacturer or furniture company offer you like spare parts. That is a value. So the value has so many different types of meanings. Value does not have one meaning. Value have multiple meanings of value. Okay, so value relates to the benefit a customer obtained from a product or service. Even you would be amazed that value is also when a business operates in a sustainable way. So in this way, the business is adding value to nature, adding value to people, and adding value to the company. So this is called 3P approach. 3P mean that is the planet, that is people, and that is profit. So mean that business is operating such a way that it is adding value to all. not just adding value to single profitability. Okay, so how to analyze this amazing framework, components of a value chain framework? So according to Michael Porter definition, all the activities that make up a firm's value chain and contribute to its margin can be split into two categories. So we can divide the activities of an organization into two categories. There are primary activities and then there are secondary activities. So what are primary activities? Here is primary activities. Primary activities are those that go directly into the creation of a product or execution of a service. Yes. So primary activities are those activities which are involved in the making of a product or providing a service. Okay, for example, there is inbound logistics, there is operation, there's outbound logistics, there's a marketing and sales, and there's after sales service. So all these five activities are categorized as primary activities. Let's have a look at each one by one. Inbound logistics are activities related to receiving, warehousing, warehousing and inventory management of source materials and components. This is called inbound logistics. Okay, so you receive material, you handle material, you manage inventory. All this is part of inbound logistics. So keeping inventory in warehouses, taking inventory from the warehouses to manufacturing, assembly plants, all this is part of inbound logistics. Operation is where the materials are converted into finished goods for a manufacturing business. But if a service business is there, then operation involved where actual service is delivered. For example, like when you go to a cinema hall or you go into a theater. So when you go to a theater to watch a movie, for example, so when the service is provided, that is called operation. So anywhere you go into a restaurant, you go into a hotel, resort, or a coffee shop. So when the service is delivered, that is called operation. Outbound logistics is about where the finished products or finished goods are uh, like activities related to finished goods, for example, distribution, packaging, sorting, warehousing, shipping, logistics. All this is part of outbound logistics of finished goods. So inbound logistics is more about raw materials. This is about raw materials and components. And this outbound is about finished product or fully assembled products. Number 4 is called marketing and sales. So marketing and sales, these are the activities that involve selling the product, marketing the product, generating awareness of the product, okay, or the service. So you can think about online, for example, or offline, or conventional methods or traditional methods of marketing and sales, or the new methods, for example, using these days, these days we are using the social media, let's say. So all these are the marketing and sales. And then there is after sales service. Once the product is delivered, once the service is delivered, this involves the after sales service. So for example, this involves training, providing quality, spare parts, repair, customer service, installation. All these are parts of after sales service. And these days, increasingly, organizations are using technology. They are using the new tools in their after-sales service. For example, increasingly in customer service, these days, organizations are using the AI agents you might have heard about. AI agents, because these are the AI agents that has access to all data of the customer accounts, and then They are trained in such a way that they handle the customers, they like receive the customers, and a lot of other online, by the way. Okay, so these are called primary activities. Then there are secondary activities. Secondary activities are 4 activities. This involve procurement, technology development, human resource management, and infrastructure. So procurement is about the sourcing. Procurement is about sourcing. Sourcing can be anything. Sourcing, not just about raw materials, but sourcing can also be about the parts and components of machinery. Sourcing can also be about the other customer services or marketing and sales and other a lot of equipment or vehicles. So this is all about sourcing from the outside the market. That is called procurement department. Technology development, very interesting. Here, you work on developing new information systems, you develop new softwares, you conduct your market research, you develop your processes, you develop products, you develop new technologies. All this is part of product technology development. Number 3 is human resource management. This involves like recruiting, hiring, training, developing, retention. Their you can think of their wages, their rewards, rewards management. All this is part of human resource management. And then the last one is infrastructure. Infrastructure is again very broad area. This involves the overall general administration of the organization. This also includes the accounting, finance teams, accounting teams, finance teams, planning teams, budgeting teams, treasury, audit, all they part of infrastructure. So the point is, sorry, that how the organization different activities are acting, how the different activities are engaging with each other, how they are supporting with each other. The purpose of this analysis, purpose of this internal analysis, keep in mind, this model is used, the Porter value chain analysis that we are right now studying. The value chain analysis is used for internal analysis. Okay, so the purpose is to find out whether the different activities are coordinating with each other, how various activities are coordinating with each other. Okay, we can have a quick 5 minutes break here, and after 5 minutes, we will be starting from our next. Meanwhile, you can have a quick look at this all, okay? And after this, we will be starting our next topic, analysis of resources, capabilities, and competencies. You can have a quick look, and if there's any question, you can let me know. Okay, so we have just covered the value chain model. I hope you have understood the 9 different activities in which an organization can analyze its internal resources and its internal strengths and weaknesses as well. Okay, is there any question? Is there any question? Okay, no question, no problem. We are starting our next topic, analysis of resources, capabilities, and competencies. So So far, we have explored the internal and external analysis with the help of the different models and the different theories. So the question is that how an organization can achieve competitive advantage. The topic name is Way to Achieve and Sustain Competitive Advantage Using Resources and Competencies. Way to achieve and sustain competitive advantage. So before we move into details, first of all, you need to understand about strategic capability. Very interesting definition is there of strategic capability. Strategic capability reflects the ability of an entity or an organization to use available to it through the competencies developed in the activities and processes it performs, the way in which these activities are linked internally and externally, and the overall balance of core competencies across the entity. The definition of strategic capability is quite technical, so let's repeat and break it into different components. Strategic capability reflect ability. So first of all, this is about ability of the organization, that this is ability, like the organization able to do something, to use and exploit its resources. It has ability to use and exploit its resources through competencies developed in the activity. So it means that an organization, if an organization want to exploit its resources at the best way, it need to develop competencies. And you know what are competencies? Competencies are skills. So this means that we are talking about two things. One are resources and other are skills. If an organization has developed both and it has the ability to use both, then it will be able to achieve strategic capability. Okay, so let's talk about resources and competencies. When we talk about resources, there are two types of resources. There are threshold resources and then there are unique resources. So what do you think? What are threshold resources? Threshold resources are the basic resources. Basic resources. And with these resources, an organization, it would be difficult, very difficult for the organization to achieve competitive advantage with these resources. So if the organization want to achieve competitive advantage, it need to have unique resources. Okay, and these are the resources which competitors don't have, So I have given few examples like specialty materials companies or the specialty chemical companies which are used in specialty paints, for example, weather resistant or cooling paints. Similarly, ownership of niche knowledge or technologies such as ASML. Do you know what is ASML? ASML is the only company right now in the world that makes machines for chip making. ASML is the only company in the world. Okay. So similarly, unique softwares, unique patents, if a business has got, this is also unique resources. So with the help of the unique resources, a business can have capabilities. Number two is called competencies. Again, what are the competencies? Competencies are the skills. So there are two types of competencies. There are threshold competencies, and then there are core or distinctive competencies. Again, threshold competencies are the basic competencies. And you know, basic mean an organization can just simply provide the product or the service at a very basic level without any advanced, without any extra features. Okay, that is called threshold. But if a business wants to have competitive advantage in its market or its industry, it needs to have distinctive competencies. Okay, these are unique competencies. These are the unique skills that the business has. And offer and develop unique products and unique services that are world class. No one else can offer similar products or services. So these are called distinctive competencies. I hope you understand. So if you look at this table can guide you about how to achieve strategic capabilities or competitive advantage. So when we talk about resources, there are two types of resources. Okay, these are the required to able to compete in the market. So there are two categories. One type of resources and skills you need, which are just required to compete in the market. But on the other side, you need resources and competencies or the skills that will help you achieve the leader or the leading position in the market and industry. And these are called the unique and distinctive competencies. So I hope that you have understood that one type of resources and competencies are which are just required to compete. You can just simply compete. But on the other side, there are resources and competencies which can help you to become a leader, achieve strategic positioning, achieve market leadership, achieve competitive advantage in the different markets. So I hope you understand this area, this model too. Okay. Now, if we look at the past papers, this topic has never been tested in the SBL exam. And by the way, it would never be tested directly. But what is important, most important thing is that you should know these different terms that we are using, the different jargons that we are using, and where these different terms are used. For example, you should know that in order to achieve competitive advantage, a business cannot achieve it with threshold resources or threshold competencies or threshold skills. So it needs unique. So it is possible that in the SBL paper or SBL exam, you can be given the list. You can be given, not list, but you can be given some information about the resources and competencies of the organization. So on that basis, you have to develop your concept. You have to conclude on that basis whether these competencies and resources are unique or whether these are just basic. That's it. I hope you understand this topic too about strategic capabilities. Okay, all these, now we can link this topic, strategic capabilities, with our value chain. Yes, because value chain explain the overall activities of the organization, dividing into 9 activities, and analysis of resources, capabilities, and competencies. This can be part of the value chain. For example, yes, this is a very interesting discussion. So you also need to link or connect this with value chain activities, especially primary activities. Okay, there are 5 primary activities. So, for example, an organization can have a very strong the logistics team. An organization can have a very strong like its outsourcing team. An organization can have a very strong procurement team. An organization can have access to the raw materials. An organization can have its own raw material production resources. Okay, so similarly, in operations, an organization might have developed unique competencies in developing assembling products. An organization might have developed unique skills in providing world-class customer service. So the point is that we can connect this topic with our value chain, because this topic is all about skills, competencies, and resources. Okay, I hope you have understood all this. And now we are moving on to the last topic of this area, that is called SWOT analysis. The other topics are just simple reading. That's why I am skipping. For example, and if you look at this topic, it is about how to add value. So there are 10 ways that I have put here. One can add value, one business can add value. Okay, how they can add value. Focus on what matters most, focus on unresolved pain. Means this is a very simple. That's why I have skipped it. And we are now landing at our last topic of this internal external analysis, that is called SWOT analysis. So before I start SWOT analysis, you need to know we have done external analysis, and we have done internal analysis. Okay. External analysis is the analysis of external factors, and internal analysis is analysis of internal resources and competencies. So after external analysis and internal analysis, we can come up with 4 factors, and these are called SWOT factors. SWOT stand for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So my dear, strengths and weaknesses come from internal resources. Okay, strengths and weaknesses come from internal analysis. If an organization might be strong in its like manufacturing, strong in its customer service, strong in its sourcing, strong in its talent development, but it might be weak in its marketing. This is a possibility. Just I am giving you one example. One business might have engineering strength, but might be weaker at finance, because they might have all engineers, they might have world-class engineering capabilities, but they may not have finance expertise. They might not have the HR expertise. They might not have the IT expertise. Understand? So this means these become their weaknesses. And you know very well that all these you need parallel. On the one side, you need engineering, but you also need customer service as well. You need information technology as well. You need your team development, HR as well. You need finance capabilities as well for planning, for your financial management. Okay, so this is internal analysis, strengths and weaknesses. External analysis, you will identify the opportunities and threats. Opportunities plus threats come from external analysis. Okay, let's have a quick go through. SWOT analysis is a unique technique or a model for identifying key factors that might affect business strategy. It is simple but useful technique for analyzing strategic position. By the way, in the past SPL papers, this topic has never been tested. And this topic is indirectly tested. Yes, indirectly. Indirectly means, for example, when there is a question on strategy analysis, or when there's a question on evaluation of a strategy, you would be indirectly using SWOT analysis. Let me write after. Okay. SBL questions. might require SWOT indirectly in the context of a question on strategic review or strategic analysis, or in the past paper, there are questions on strategy evaluation or appraisal of a strategy. So these are the different situations I have shared with you where you can expect this topic would be tested. But direct question on this topic is very unlikely. Okay, so strengths and weaknesses come from internal capabilities and core competencies of the organization. Strengths and weaknesses are internal factors that create value or destroy value. What that means? If the business is very good in certain area, that would generate value, that would create value for the business. But on the other side, if the business is weak in any particular area, that might destroy value. For example, these example I have given you, that there can be world-class engineering, world-class engineers are part of the team, but they might have very weak information technology or customer service. Understand? So on the one side, they are adding value, on the other side, they are destroying value. So strengths and weaknesses both come from internal resources. Then threats and opportunities. Threats and opportunities come from external factors. When there's a change in external factors, change in external or macro environmental factors. For example, pastel or pastel plus five forces. Pastel plus five forces, if there's any change, these might bring either opportunity or threat for the organization. And we have very classic recent examples from the corporate and business world. For example, if we look at the TikTok situation, you might have heard about the TikTok, uh, like the news of ban in the US. So that is a threat for the TikTok. Similarly, the tariffs, for example, tariffs, we are now learning about protectionism. We are learning about taxes, new taxes. We are learning about the new regulation. We are learning about the like climate related things. We are learning about technology. So all these are emerging uh, threats, but these might have the opportunities as well. For example, the new US government, they have announced $500 billion AI investments. $500 billion AI investment. So this is a big opportunity for those companies which are already in the AI field, and they are already in the data centers. For example, you can think of OpenAI, that is a leading in the AI. You can talk about Meta, you can talk about Google, Microsoft. These are the companies that are seeing big opportunities. Or the new so this also depends upon the new governments. When the new governments comes in force, they come with the new priorities. This one you also know, that government priorities change. For example, the new US government, their priority is now more energy, coal, and they have decided to leave the Paris Climate Pact. They have decided to leave that. They have decided to get out of the many other environmental related agreements. Understand? So these are threats for those companies which are in the green technologies, which are in sustainable technologies, which are in ESG. But on the other side, there are new opportunities for those businesses which are in the conventional energy industries or conventional other industries. So very interesting developments, as I told you, happening. So these are like threats or opportunities for the organizations. For example, more like federal funding cuts. Yes, a lot of, for example, the US government has also announced that they will be cutting the budgets and funds allocation for WHO, the World Health Organization. So budget cuts will lead to less finances for WHO. Okay, and they will have the less resources available. So very interestingly, you need to find out, being a businessman, being a analyst, that how these new developments are going to affect different countries, different organizations. Okay, being analyst and SBL paper can expect you in this role as well. Being analyst, you need to assess how these developments might affect your clients, your customers, your organizations, how they are going to affect. Okay, so my dear, there's a SWOT quick discussion. Here I have put a list of different strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats for your quick understanding. For example, when we talk about strengths, so strengths of an organization can be, let's say, what strategic advantage do we have? They might have strategic advantage in resources. They might have strategic advantage in unique technology. They might have a strategic advantage in unique processes, unique products. Okay, so this can be strategic advantage, can be in terms of technology, in terms of processes, in terms of products. Next, what opportunities do we have to create synergies? Like how we can create synergies between different our operations, synergies between different processes, synergies between different products. What makes our products so unique and different? You can ask this question, that why customers are purchasing our products. Which resources make us better? What type of resources? Which unique skills, competencies, and knowledge do we have? We have environmental friendly business practices, make us a socially responsible organization. It is a source of competitive advantage. We have sustainable supply chains. We have zero waste circular products. We have top rating on ESG and sustainability indexes that will attract more and more green investors, that will attract more and more climate conscious investors towards our operations. Okay, so these are strengths. But on the other side, these can be weaknesses as well. For example, what disadvantages do we have? Disadvantages. Which of our weaknesses make us vulnerable? Which resources do we lack? Which skills, knowledge, competencies are we weak at? Which systems and processes are we performing poorly? Our business operations are not environment friendly. Our processes and products are sources of waste and emissions. We have low rating in ESG sustainability indexes. So if this is the situation, that can be weaknesses. I hope you have understood all this. Now, have a quick look at opportunities and threats. Like what trends are there, such as AI trends, for example. Such as AI trends. What are the changes in external environment? Are there new legislation, technology, innovation, or a policy change favorable for our business model? Are there new alternative sustainable supply sources available in the market? Demand for low emission products are rising. Are there new markets developing for sustainable products? Okay, similarly, we can ask questions about threats. Are there new competitors in the market? Are there new laws of government policy shift disadvantage to our business model? For example, again, I would say like the tariffs, for example. Are there shifts in the other external environmental factors unfavorable to our business model, such as inflation, recession, weak economy, exchange rates, interest rates? Are there new taxes, fines being introduced by government to curb emissions and waste? So, very interestingly, I hope you have understood all these are the different examples, different situations for strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats. Okay, so I have discussed this model in the context of SBL paper. I have explained this model very comprehensively. I hope you understand this as well. If there's any question, please feel free to ask. Is there any question? No question? No problem. We are moving on to our next topic, strategic choices. Strategic choices. So far, previously, we have explored internal, external analysis. Okay, so what is the benefit of internal, external analysis? With internal, external analysis, we can have an detailed understanding about strengths, opportunities, threats, and weaknesses of the organization. So once that is done, now we are in a position to look for how to grow, how to, basically the question is how to grow. How many options we have, how many choices do we have? Choices mean alternatives. How many options for growth or alternative do we have? Okay, so here we are going to start our discussion with Porter generic strategies for competitive advantage. So we are going to look for the different type of strategies, and then we have to compare these strategies, which one is best for our organization if we are looking for a new strategy. So Porter has suggested 3 strategies for sustaining competitive advantage. Sustaining. Okay, what is sustain? You should know that previously we have discussed how to achieve competitive advantage, and achieving competitive advantage and sustaining competitive advantage, these are the 2 different stages in the story of competitive advantage. Okay, these are the 2 different stages, because sometimes it would be easier for an organization to achieve competitive advantage. The reason because there may not be anyone in that segment of industry. It is possible to achieve competitive advantage because there is no one. But This situation may not last longer. I have plenty of examples to share with you. First, let's connect this one with strategic space. Strategic space in emerging industries, emerging sectors, finding strategic space in emerging sectors or industries or markets. So I have 2 or 3 examples for you. First of all, I have examples, Fitbit case. Do you know Fitbit? Fitbit was once, when Fitbit was launched, it was a market leader in wearable technology, wearable tech, like Fitbit gadgets, it's different types of watches and like other different wearable products. Fitbit became you can think like a wave in the town. But what happens when Apple Watch was launched? Apple launched its first watch, and that was the beginning of fall of Fitbit. As soon as Apple Watch was launched, Fitbit started going down. And there was a very reason because of Apple ecosystem. You can Google, just Google what happened with Fitbit. Just Google and check where its stock price is now today. Fitbit stock price. Where is it today? Where it was 10 years back and where it is today. 2015 and 2025. Just go and check. The second case that I can share with you, this platform that we are using right now, this Zoom is the second example. When Zoom idea was introduced, that was a new era in communication. New era in communication, like we're talking about 10 years back. Okay. So at that time, the online communication, video conferencing, video lectures, and all that stuff was just picking up. And then Microsoft introduced its, like Microsoft offered Teams within its Microsoft all other packages. Okay. And then what happened with Zoom? You can check that. So these are the 2 very interesting examples to study. Interesting to study what happens with first mover advantage. They were first movers in their particular segments. Okay. But what happened? When bigger players entered, the space became smaller for them. And this is a lot of examples you can find on music industry, on fitness industry, on like video and like online streaming platforms. Online streaming, you can find out like in every segment of the technology, because technology has now so many segments. And there are segment leaders. One more example we can share, for example, like Uber, for example. Do you know that Uber has to close its operations from many markets? Although Uber is a leader in North American market, in European market, and some other markets as well. But when it comes to the Asian and African markets, Asian and African markets, that the dynamics are way, way different. Dynamics are different. So Uber has to quit from many Eastern African markets, North African markets, it has to quit. Okay, so now come back to the point that there are three different types of strategies that organization can choose from. One is called cost leader, the other one is called differentiation, and the third one is called focus strategy. Okay, we are talking about how to sustain competitive advantage, how to sustain, and you would be amazed that how companies are offering local solutions now. Global companies offer local solutions now. That's very interesting because they are adjusting their strategies. Adjusting strategies. And one of the example is Netflix. How Netflix has adjusted its strategy. In North America, its options are very high price, like $22, $23 per month. But in developing countries, it has made almost free in many African markets. In Asian markets like Pakistan, India, and other South Asian markets, its prices are very low. How much is it in Mauritius? What is the price of Netflix in Mauritius? Amazing. 189 rupees, right? One screen. Okay, so they have their. Okay, so Shristi, you mean they have offer per screen over there? Per screen. Wow. Amazing. Customized offerings. Amazing. 189 per screen. But this is very unique and very rare offering, by the way. Anyway, this is all possible because of digital business models. This is all possible because of the digitization of the business models. Companies are able to customize their plans, their offering, their products, their services according to the local market conditions. Wow. Okay. So there are, according to Michael Porter, there are three ways an organization can sustain its competitive advantage. Number one is called cost leadership. Number two is called differentiation. And number three is called focus or niche strategy. So let's first talk about what cost leadership is. Cost leadership means being the lowest cost producer in the world, in the market, not world, being the lowest cost producer in the market. The least cost producer is able to compete effectively on price by offering its products at a lower price than rival products. You would be amazed. This is again my interesting area of research, that how the competitive landscape is changing. Okay. Competition strategies are shifting. Previously, it was okay, but now the low-cost business models are facing new different type of challenges. Okay, I can give you example from clothing brands, fashion brands, like the low price brands are Primark, for example, in UK, Primark, or H&M. It is a global brand, H&M, or you talk about Zara. But do you know that these brands are being challenged by new entrants? And do you know who are they? Have you heard about Uniqlo? Uniqlo or Shane? Have you heard about these brands? Shane or Uniqlo. So this is a very interesting. Thank you. This is very interesting that those brands, those global leaders in their segment, they are being challenged by new entrants. I need to write it for you that the competitive landscape becoming interesting in every industry and market. Okay, so incumbents like conventional market leaders, or you can think of traditional market leaders being challenged by new disruptors. New disruptors. And who are those disruptors? You can think of Temu. No one has known Temu a few years back. Temu has all of a sudden appeared and it is now challenging Amazon. Very interesting. Who would have imagined that Amazon would be challenged? And now a new disruptor has come and started challenging Amazon. Then again, I would say Shein. That how Shein is able to sell a t-shirt for $3, $4, $5. Okay, so that is like an interesting. You can talk about BYD in EVs. You can talk about a lot of other technology in like batteries, in solar, in technology. So that is amazing now. That is amazing. So the point is that cost leadership positions have now dramatically changed. But anyway, you need to know what cost leader is. Point number 2, companies with a cost leadership strategy must have excellent systems of cost control. That is very important because the business is already selling at a low price. So low price means its margins would be very small. So in order to make sure that it making some margins and not losing money, it needs to have very tight cost control structures, tight cost control structures. And this you can see in no frill airlines. No frill airlines. Have you ever traveled through no frill airlines? That they would try to cut their cost as low as possible on each passenger, on each seat, they would cut their cost. Lowest cost and highest operational efficiency or productivity per seat they would try because they are selling at very low price. Got it? Number 3, the success of a cost leader strategy is based on offering products at the lowest price, which means that in order to make a reasonable profit, the company must sell large quantities of the product. So these are the 2 essential requirements for any cost leader business. Number 1, that they must have excellent cost control systems. And number 2, they need to sell in large quantities. That you can also say that they sell in large volumes, large quantities. Okay, so that is one type of business model that sells in large quantities, makes small profit, but its overall profit would be higher because it need to sell in large quantities. And this is our cost leadership strategy. Number two, according to Michael Porter, the second one is differentiation. As in the cost leader, we have studied that a cost leader needs to keep the cost as low as possible because it is making very small profit. The drawback of cost leader is that cost leader products are basic, sells basic standard products. This is the problem with the cost leader. This is the weakness of the cost leader, that it sells very basic, a standard product. Means if you expect higher value, higher benefit, more features, then cost leader is not the right place. You need to go to differentiation strategy. Okay, so what is differentiation strategy? Under differentiation strategy, the businesses, the brands would try to compete offering differentiation in their products and services. Yes, brands would compete on the basis of differentiation, not on the basis of cost. This is the note that you need to take. That brands would compete on the basis of differentiation, not on the basis of the cost. So differentiation means making a product different from rival products in a way that customers can recognize. Customers might be willing to pay a higher price for a product because they value its different features, because the product has different features and customers know about this. Number three, companies pursuing a differentiation strategy need to offer products and services that are perceived as better as or more suitable than those of competitors. Because now the question is not about cost. The question is about how I can differentiate. How I can differentiate. Question is different now. Okay? Question is different now. The question is not about cost. Question is about how can I add different value. That is called differentiation strategy. I hope you have understood the difference between cost leader and differentiation. Number three is focus or niche strategy. Very interesting. According to Michael Porter, cost leader and differentiation, both strategies are good for masses, for bigger markets. But what if the bigger markets are already saturated? Okay, that is the point you need to take note. Both, let me write it here for you. Both cost leader and differentiation strategies are suitable when large markets are not saturated. But what if the market is already saturated? Then how would you make strategic positioning? Then you have this strategy, focus or niche. So under focus or niche, you choose one more point. You choose a specific segment of the market and start serving that segment of the market. Here is the point that you need to consider. A cost leader strategy and a differentiation strategy can be pursued in a market that is not segmented. that is not segmented. Mean the market is overall bigger, the market is growing. Yes, market is growing, still growing. But what if market has got saturated and it has become segmented? What if the market has saturated? It is segmented and saturated. So in that case, you need to go for focus or niche strategy. Okay, so however, many customer markets are segmented, and companies might select one or more particular segments as target markets for their product. This is called a focus strategy, concentrating on selling the product to a particular segment of the market and to a particular type of customer. What is that particular type of market and particular type of customer? We have so many examples, so many examples. Like I can give you example from two industries. One is called outdoor industry. Outdoor. Are, for example, there are brands that make clothing only for outdoor gear. They make outdoor gear, like they would be making trousers which are suitable for extreme weather conditions. They would be making jackets which are suitable for extreme weather conditions. For example, those jackets which are worn by mountaineers. Like one example is North Face. Have you heard about North Face? North Face is one of the brand that makes products for extreme weather, and mountaineers normally worn that gear. Another brand that I would mention here is Patagonia. Patagonia is also a brand that makes outdoor gear like jackets and similar stuff. But the difference between North Face and Patagonia is that Patagonia focus more on sustainability side. Yes. So if you look at that Patagonia products, they will give you all the details about their product, where it was made, how the materials were sourced. So it focused more on fair trade. It focused more on like sustainability. It focused more on the traceability of its products and its materials. So these brands serve to specific segments of the market. Everyone is not their customer. One more brand, for example, in cycling brands, a company that make bicycles. So only it makes bicycles and different types of bicycles. Okay, even within the manufacturing of the bicycles, there are different brands that make only racing bicycles. Racing. There are companies that make the bicycles for mountainous areas, for the higher altitude products. And then you would be amazed. There are companies and brands that make only gear for cyclists. That's it. And then you can also thinking about skiing. You can also thinking about surfing. Those companies that make ski gear, okay, jackets and trousers and all that, the helmets and the similar products. So these are very interesting, called focus or niche strategy. Even in electronics, in automobile companies, you can have a focus or niche. Yes, there's a one brand called Mini, for example. Mini Cooper, although this brand is owned by BMW, But this brand has a niche strategy because it's a design. If you look at the design and the features of many, that is called differentiation focus strategy. This is within the niche or focus, there are two options. One can go for low cost, other can go for differentiation. So Mini Cooper, it follow the focus differentiation strategy. Okay, so there are two options under focus strategy. One called cost focus, mean a business has chosen a particular segment and now offering low price products to that focus. For example, like a brand that offers or that sells clothing for kids, for example, kids wear, kids clothing, and it offers at lower prices to only for kids. Similarly, a jewelry brand offers low cost jewelry. Now, low cost jewelry is a segment. Same case with the fragrances as well. A company that makes fragrances, perfumes, one can follow cost focus and other can follow differentiation strategy. So, my dear, that is about the different types of strategies that you need to learn according to Michael Porter. And you can have a look at this quick competitive advantage, what makes the company strong, cost, differentiation. So in this, you can see the entire or a segment. Means, are we going to compete in the whole entire market? This is a market scope. Market scope. So what part of the markets is being targeted? So are we going to target the entire market or we going to target? And yeah, I can give you more examples from the recent examples can be software companies. Recent examples of niche strategy, organic brands, whether these are food, beauty brands, or the softwares or apps, for example, which are designed to cater the needs of specific segment. Even you would be amazed that there are YouTube channels. I can give you another very interesting examples. YouTube channels are there that follow this strategy. They follow, like, for example, there are channels which are only for make content for kids. So that is another very interesting example of a niche or focus strategy. Similarly, those new YouTube channels that have the wider audience, for example, comedy or these type of content they create. Okay, so then now which strategy is the best? So here, this table can help you analyze the three different types of strategies we can quickly go through. So first one is called cost leader. Cost leader definition is being the lowest cost producer in the market. The least cost producer is able to compete effectively on price by offering its products at a lower price than rival products and still makes a profit. Required activities for a cost leader is must have excellent systems of cost control, and should continually plan for further cost reductions. Yes, it needs to have very strong controls on cost and keep exploring new way to how to cut cost further. Source of their competitive advantage is a low cost, and they must never lose sight of this. Next, they need to have economies of scale. Economies of scale are achieved when a business is operating at the highest level of production. then it can achieve economies of scale. Reduce overhead cost. Yes, it needs to remove all unnecessary overheads. Low cost of supplies, capital investment in technology to reduce cost, like automation, or these days we are talking about AI. So they can use AI. And yes, very interestingly, very interesting. You can expect SBL question. Expect SBL question on this topic. Asking same, like the question might ask you to evaluate how new tech like AI can help the existing strategy, whether that strategy is about cost leader or whether the new strategy is about differentiation or focus. Because as I gave you examples in the start of the class, that a dental clinic, for example, I was talking to one of, or like gym, for example, they are very niche businesses. And yeah, very interesting. Even I have seen low cost gym as well. Cost leaders. A gym I have seen in North American market. Cost leaders in they are offering very basic gym service, but I have seen the differentiation strategy. A lot of gym following differentiation because they are offering a lot of features. For example, they are offering swimming pool, and then I have seen niche strategy as well. Those gyms, those fitness centers that offer personalized trainers, okay, so they attract, like you can think of high income customers because they are offering a lot of extra services. So their target market, high income customers. Okay, so the question, as I told you, that question, you can expect a question that might ask you how the technology or how the sustainability, yes, there is a question in the past papers. There is a question on strategy and sustainability. Strategy and sustainability, okay? That how the new developments in environmental side would affect strategy of the organization. The question was, how new environmental issues might affect existing strategy of the organization. And this is the question of the day as well. This is question of today and tomorrow. Every business need to ask this question, by the way. Okay, all right, so cost leader, their capital investment in technology, labor cost reductions through supervision, outsourcing, work design, low cost distribution, reduced cost of manufacturing or providing service, tight financial controls, operate in lower cost environments, production-based incentives. But what are the issues with this? Success of a cost leadership strategy is based on offering products at the lowest price, which means that in order to make a reasonable profit, the company must sell large quantities of the product. That is the problem. That company must sell large quantities of the product. Total profits usually come from selling large volumes at a low profit margin per unit. Product or service becomes a commodity with no brand loyalty. Okay, that point, product or service becomes a commodity. Commodity means that's just a generic product. Changing technology cuts your cost disadvantage. Yes, when your source of advantage might be affected, this is called disruption. Mean one company is enjoying its cost leader, but a new disruptor has entered with a new low price because the new disruptor is using new technology. Okay, new entrants can produce at even lower cost, like China, for example. Very good example is that how Chinese companies are able to produce almost everything at lower. Wow, that's interesting. We need to write a book on China model and how the Chinese companies are able to disrupt every industry today. Okay. Focus on cost reduction means that you miss changing customer taste because you are offering very basic product. Differentiation means making a product that is different from rival products in a way that customers can recognize. Customers might be willing to pay a higher price for the product because they value its different features. They are willing to pay higher price. And companies pursuing a differentiation strategy need to offer products and services that are perceived as better or more suitable than competitors, more suitable than competitors, more suitable than competitors. And then what are the required activities? Required activities are unique or highly improved products or services. Build up a brand image. Yes, brand image. Creative approach to marketing. Reputation for quality and product service innovation. Ability to attract creative personnel, of course. Effective coordination among R&D marketing. Give the product special features to make it stand out. Exploit other activities of the value chain, for example, quality of after-sales service, use IT and innovation, build customer relationship through effective branding and marketing, and create complementary products and or services, for example, Apple, Microsoft, or complementary products you can think of, like in Gillette, for example. Gillette is another example of differentiation. It makes blades, but it follows differentiation strategy. Or you can think of Colgate, for example, Colgate Palmolive, how it creates differentiation with so many different options available in the toothpaste. Okay. All right, and then there are issues as well with differentiation. Qualitative difference between you and low-cost producer may not be enough to sustain sales. Yes, that is, you must have to create a difference. You must have to prove that how your product is different from the low-cost producer. Otherwise, customers may ask that, why are you charging extra premium for offering a basic product? Understand? And today, nothing is hidden because online pricing and all this. So you have to prove, you have to justify. Otherwise, your customer would go away. Differentiating factors may no longer be attractive to customers. Imitation narrows perceived differences. That is correct. And then we talk about focus or differentiation. Focus, low cost focus, differentiation focus. So here are some like action that you need to take. If you are following low cost focus, reduce overhead cost, lowest cost of supplies, labor cost reduction, low cost distribution, tight financial control, operate in low cost environment. And then the issues, cost advantage is focused, firm is lost with respect to broader competitors. Like I gave you example of the uh, Fitbit, for example, that how Fitbit lost to Apple, and ultimately then Fitbit was acquired by Google. Then, because that advantage may go away, strategic advantage may go away when bigger players would make entry. That is a risk. This is called risk. SBL questions, you can expect this. SBL questions can test, because question may ask you, evaluate suitability of a strategy. Evaluate suitability of a strategy. So you have to evaluate whether this strategy makes sense in changing circumstances. Okay, all right, my dear, and then business strategies for sustaining competitive advantage. So there are 4 strategies for sustaining competitive advantage. We can quickly finish this one. 4 strategies. One is called price-based strategies, like a business is able to charge lower price for its products. Okay, charge lower price for its products. So continue with that. So for this, as we have discussed earlier, it will need a unique cost structure. Unique cost structure means that it will have to have a very strong controls over its cost. Next, differentiation-based advantage. Yes, a business can have or can sustain competitive advantage by following a differentiation-based advantage. So as we have discussed earlier, that if a business is following a differentiation strategy and want to sustain competitive advantage with this, it needs to have different methods, like way of attempting to sustain advantage, like create difficulties for imitation. Imitation in many industries, imitation of the products or the services might be easier. So how you control your design, your patents, imperfect mobility of resources and skills, high switching cost, make it difficult for the resources and the skills to move out of your business. And branding, yes, branding. Like, for example, you can talk about Nike or you talk about Coca-Cola. How these brands have been able to control, okay, this is the power of branding. Power of branding and marketing. Other brands you can talk about, Disney, for example, or you talk about Xbox, how they have been able to sustain competitive advantage. And the third one is called lock-in strategy. Very interesting. Another way to sustain competitive advantage is to lock in. And this is a new strategy in fashion. This strategy is in fashion. Another name that we use this strategy is called ecosystem. Increasingly, organizations are using now ecosystem services. And classic examples are the 2, 3, 4 companies, like Apple, for example. Apple has a very classic lock-in strategy. If you are using the iPhone, you are bound to use the Apple Music. You are bound to use, because now iPhones are coming with big cameras and bigger, that demand bigger memory and storage. So you will be using iCloud, you will be using Apple Music, you will be using other like Apple TV, Apple Books, you will be using Apple News. This is all ecosystem of Apple products and services. Okay, Apple like their TV Plus like so many different types of offerings Apple have. So this is another example of lock-in is Microsoft. So if you are using like Windows, for example, and you are using the Microsoft services, so like Office, let's say 365. So imagine how many options, how many apps, how many services. Basically, a very interesting point that you need to know that we are living in digital economy, app economy, apps, for example, apps, digital economy, digital services. So all this is possible. One more example is Adobe. Although Adobe is under heavy criticism because of its latest pricing strategy, Adobe is also using this lock-in strategy. So if you are you are a designer or you are a graphic designer or any other, you are using the Adobe Creative Suite. So you are using all the Adobe services, Adobe Cloud, Adobe AI, and all that. And now all these companies, I have just shared the three, and there are a lot of companies now. All are integrating AI. Everyone is now integrating AI, whether you are using Meta, and yeah, another example is Meta. How Meta has integrated the Facebook, its Instagram, its WhatsApp, its Threads, four apps of Meta, and Google, of course. Google also like one account, just one account, and you need to log in. So that's why we are becoming more dependent. And it has changed our behaviors, our routines, our way of doing things as well. Okay, all right. And the fourth way to sustain strategy is 7 P's model. So according to 7 P's model, that an organization can sustain competitive advantage if it focuses on these 7 P's. So 7 P's are, you might have heard about the conventional 4 P's. 4 P's are product, place, promotion, price, people. Sorry, 4 P's are product, place, promotion, and price. And the other three P's are about people, processes, and physical services. So the 4 P's are conventional. These are mostly used by manufacturing organization that makes manufactured products like product. You can think of a company that makes uh, like sofa, for example, a company that makes television. But on the other side, these three are mostly used by services. For example, if a fashion designer, let's say, so how a fashion designer would show you their new product. So their people, skills, craftsmanship, their processes, and their physical evidence of that product. For example, if you are getting your wedding dress, let's say, okay, so how would you get all that? This will help. Okay, I think that is sufficient for today. And in the next class, we are going to complete the remaining topics. I think that is sufficient for today. What do you think? Is it sufficient today? And is there any question? Okay, no question, and it is sufficient. So that's all then from our today class. These notes will be available. Just I am a little bit updating more, and these notes will be available for you by tomorrow. Okay, so tomorrow it will be available. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you all for being part of the class, and I hope you have learned and understood all the new thinkings, and I hope you are finding this concept, this strategy interesting. Thank you very much, everyone, for being part of the class. And if there is any question, please feel free to ask me. Okay, we have now WhatsApp group, and we can discuss in that group. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. And yes, the notes will be available in the portal. Thank you, and see you next Saturday. Bye.